I would wish to thank my sister Jane, who stood by me through thick and thin in my illness, in my taking care of my daughter, and so many other things. I would also like to thank my sister Josephine, who took the responsibility of my daughter as her own. And I would also like to thank my sister Anastasia for her prayers and for her support. I would also like to thank my
Take that, please.
I would also like to thank my brother.
Starting from, I would like to thank my sister.
I would like to thank my sister Jane for her support, which is immeasurable, which I cannot describe. She has stood by me through thick and thin. I would like to thank my sister Josephine for all she has done for me, and I would like to thank my sister Anastasia for her prayers, my sister Lydia for her prayers, and I would also like to thank my brothers for the support that they have given me. I would also like to thank my late father, whom we just buried on the 4th of July, for sacrificing everything he had to make sure that I got my education. I would also like to thank my mother, Madarina Wajiro, for her fireside education. The most important thing is her question, Mwatida Mugekatia, what have you done today? Those questions, the support from my family was very, very important into what I became. I could not have become what I am today without them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking about the importance of support system and people around you who've supported you in your career. So now please tell us about your journey and what inspired you to get into research.
For me, it was my curious nature of observing, looking at things and questioning. I did not start research when I was an academic. As I fetched water, I looked at the environment and would ask myself questions. I would ask myself questions about the sky. I would ask the questions about why rivers flew the way they did, and geography as a subject offered me answers to those questions. So when I was introduced to the subject of geography, I fell in love with it because it answered the questions that surrounded me. I know in our curriculum we are arguing, no, take science, we are trying to do away with the geography, history, CRE and all those subjects. But if I'm a student now, maybe I would have dropped out because the education system does not resonate with the environment I lived in.
Mm-hmm.
But geography did offer me solution, and it forced me to stay in school. Western scholarship has always misunderstood African women. But from where I come from, I grew up surrounded by very strong women, starting with my mother, whose husband was a migrant laborer. And she took care of a family of 10. She led church organizations. She was a teacher, and she did everything for the community, whether in church or within the vicinity.
Yeah.
I also grew up surrounded by very strong women like my grandmother, Fires wa Njeri, Wangui wa Bari, and many more, Tata Gatherero, Nyina wa Jeni, Nyina wa Kafoi. These women were very strong and they did a lot of work in the home, wherever they were. But then the colonialists came and told us the work women do is donkey work. They drew photographs of women with one child in the tummy, another one walking and carrying a basket. And they said they were coming to liberate this woman and make her work smart and empower her. But that is not true, because through their financial inclusion programs, what they have done to women is that you find a woman being auctioned because she couldn't pay a loan, committing suicide because she could not pay a loan. So what have we done? And I remember my grandmother's song, which in Kikuyu is Bia Shiokire, when money arrived. Money destroyed the household economy. It destroyed her granary and replaced it with the shop. It destroyed her cow, told her to adopt grade cows, and grade cows required technology, so she could no longer milk.
Okay.
Then she also used to sing that when money arrived, it brought up conflicts in the family. That was, a husband would demand a loan in the privacy of their bedroom, or a son would start demand payment while from the mother. So if people want to understand about empowerment, empowerment is a false terminology, because women have always been strong. There was Mekatiriri wa Mensa, there was Siokimau, there was Njeri wa Dugo, there was Diko, and many more women who can be found in most of our Kenyan communities. But because colonial education preferred the education of the men, it ignored the women, and then we turned around to say that women were not being educated. So then we turn around and say we are going to empower women with money, which is basically wrong, when we destroyed the very structures of their power. We through schools, we destroyed the control of the woman as an educator of the child by the fireside. So we never incorporated this education in our curriculum. And sometimes it pains me to see women, while we are speaking about empowerment of women, why aren't we addressing the issue of alcoholism? And in the lecture, I gave an example of what is written in a matatu: vumilia kama bibi ya mlevi. Why aren't we seeing and challenging this alcoholism, addressing the root cause of alcoholism, which have been made so available to destroy homes?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm writing my book, The Salt on the Land. Because my own two brothers they died from addiction. And this addiction, nobody is willing to face it by the horn
Yeah.
and deal with it. Who is selling this cheap erased brew? For example, now there is a brew which is called Gaduri Gui.
Yeah.
That is a small man who is a dog. What does that terminology mean? It's out to destroy the remaining of men. But where did we start destroying our men? You know, our men were protectors of women. But when they were forced to migrate into cities, you have migrated to Nairobi and you have left your wife in Kisumu. A year will go by before you go home. So what happens? So we need to understand and unearth, where did the rain start beating us? One of the problems that the women are facing is the destruction of the fruits of their womb. That is the critical problem that women are facing. The world today is out to destroy the fruits of the womb of a woman.
What do you mean by that?
That whatever comes from the womb is under threat.
Okay.
If it is not under threat from alcoholism, it's under threat for many other things, which I'll not say in open, on live TV or live radio. You know them too well. So, whatever we are doing to the, in Gikuyu we say Roshiaro, and we say never abuse the Roshiaro. What does that mean? Never abuse what comes out of my womb. They want their children to be in safe, secure places. That's the most critical thing. We don't want their children to wake up in the morning, they are driving borders, and the next day they are not. They don't want their children driving matatus, and the next day they die. They don't want their children having accidents on the road. They don't want, having their children without jobs, waking up in the morning without any jobs. So what I'm saying is that we are addressing the wrong problem. Why don't we restore the cottage industries? Why don't we restore the indigenous industries? For example, when I go home and I look at my father's farm and my brother's farm filled with avocados, and I sit there and wonder, how many bags of avocados can be sold so that he can buy a smartphone or a computer for his 3 daughters or 3 sons. So those are the things that we need to speak about, not give them financial empowerment. We need to address the issues that are causing the pain to women. And as I say, financial inclusion is not the issue. The women are working hard, they are making their money, but they are educating their children, and then they go to alcoholism, they are recruited in other things, and they are not in secure and safe spaces. So if you want to help the women ensure that their children are in safe and secure places and they are self-reliant.
Wow. It's so good that we've talked about the challenges that are facing women and also what can be done to help them feel secure and to know that their children are safe wherever they are. And I know in your speech you told us not to ask about the Utu Ubuntu, but you've also written about that business model. Maybe could you explain what it is and how it can help women build sustainable business and in stronger communities?
Women, the Utu Ubuntu philosophy that I propose has 8 tenets, and
Yeah.
I'll start with one of them. One of them is peace and harmony in the home.
Yeah.
How women maintain their peace and harmony. I know there is another who says that it is wrong for women to be the peacemakers.
Yeah.
But my argument is that women should entail to maintain peace because they are in charge of, they are the mothers. And you don't want your children to be in insecure places.
Yeah.
So let's have security in our homes, security outside the home, and security in the nation.
Wow.
The next tenet
Yeah.
I call of Hutu feminism
Mm-hmm.
is food security.
Yeah.
The woman was in charge of food security. In her farm, in her household, where I grew up, there was always a granary. Why did she store the food? She stored the seeds for the next harvest. She stored the food for the future.
Yeah.
But now, the granary was replaced with the shop.
Okay.
So she lost her granary, like in the song of my grandmother. The third principle is the connection between space and between generation. How does the women connect space and generations? And I said my sister Ogola, Margaret Ogola, has done that excellently in her book The River and the Source and in the Name of Apollo, where the women connect generations,
Mm-hmm.
where the women connect space, geographically, regions, and all that.
Yeah.
So what do we do when we lose those ideologies? I don't see feminism as equality between men and women. As I explained, I see equality as the case of Aguhas Bay in South Africa, where 2 ocean currents, the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, meet. And here, the warm Indian Ocean meets the cold current of the Atlantic. So what does it happen? They swirl, there is turbulence, there is agreement, and they preserve the flora and the fauna of the 2 oceans. And the silted water, after surviving for some time, it loses its identity and it's mixed into the Indian Ocean. So what happens to women when they join the broken masculine systems or the broken systems that we have? I don't need to mention names, and I don't mean to fight the 2/3 gender rule, which most of us want to achieve, but what do they do when they go to parliament? What do they do when they run schools? Do they run it differently from the men? Do they run it differently from wherever? What I would like to see is us standing bega kwa bega, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't see feminism as a binary where we are fighting for equality. I see us working towards kitchenizing the boardroom, using the logic of the kitchen whereby the woman mixes, and I'm saying even the men, mix the ingredients whereby they share equally, they educate at the kitchen, and they do so many things at the kitchen. So when we kitchenize our boardrooms using the feminine ideology, which we try to suppress in so many ways, being told acquire the masculine frame, I don't know from where, because the masculine frame, which I saw while growing up, my grandfather would come, sit at a position, and would watch until everybody gets into the home. He would not live there. It is again the fallen masculine masculine system that tells us, men don't go home like chicken, they must pass through some drinking joints and all that. That was not the case. As far as I knew, the first base my father would stop at was the family. Then he could go and do the rest. So let me tell you that what we need to do is get to the historical roots of where this system came from. And as I can tell you, I have observed similar things among, like I acknowledged Francine and Bill Adams. Francine was a PhD, but she chose to be a stay-home mother. I've seen grandparents taking care of children when the mother and the father works. But what do we do in our programs? I also wish to acknowledge the role of my brother-in-laws. They have played very important role in my life. They have also supported me by allowing my sisters to support me. So what I'm saying is that the family system that we are told to destroy is not, it's everybody. And when I say Utu, it means humanness. And in my community, it means Omodo. You are not judged by the number of goats you had or the cows. You are judged that you showed humanness. You cared. You gave somebody a shoulder to cry. You walked with somebody. You entertained a stranger. Those were the things that measured Utu. Not the goats, not the education. It's how you behaved yourself. But you find in WhatsApp groups or in social media, they'll say, in order to be successful, you have to abandon your family. Shake off those people who are bringing you down, which means shaking off my brother who is a matatu driver and not walking with him. It means shaking off my brother who is not able and move with the elite. What about if I brought my brothers together, educated their children, took them to hospital? What does that mean? It means Utu. But then those rules that we see on reality TV, on TikTok which are telling you abandon your family, work with those people who think like you, whether it's family or not. What do they mean? What are they telling us? Those are the questions we should be asking ourselves. Like I said, if my sisters did not step in my life, I don't think I would be where I am. If my brother-in-laws didn't step in my life, I wouldn't be where I am. And I'm very grateful to all of them because of working with me, of not saying, stand on your own. They gave me a shoulder to cry on, and they have held my hand. I identify myself not as a binary, man or woman, because in my culture, when you meet somebody, you don't ask them, are you male or female? If I was walking, I'll say, whom did you meet with? Which person did you meet with? Then you say, I met a human being. Then the second question will be, woman or man? So the first identity is not male or female. The first identity is human. Even when a child is born, they ask you, what is the child? And then they say, Kanaga kege. Then they'll ask you, Gato, which one? They'll say, a baby who is glittering. I don't know how to translate it into English. A child who is bubbly, glittering, and everything. Then they'll ask you a second question, Gato. Then you say, male or female. So the first thing is you are a flowery, bumbly, and everything. Of course, people will say, oh, you said 4 gametes for a boy, 3 for a girl. Those are things that they don't understand, because the first, what is the basis of gamete, nobody has really told us. What we should first understand is what lies behind the questioning, behind the child.
Thank you so much for saying that. Is very interesting. So why do you think the word feminism is often misunderstood in Kenya and maybe even across Africa?
You know, there is this copy and paste which I'm a critic of. People copying and pasting. And the minute we stop copying and pasting, that's when true liberation will happen to our women and to our men. We have copied and pasted and all that. Yeah.
You've talked about that, and I was wondering, what role do men have in advancing gender equality, and maybe how can they become meaningful partners in that journey?
You see, I don't know how to phrase that one, because if you understood my concept of Aguha's Bay, we are going to bring our feminine ideology and they bring their masculine ideology, and we live together. That's what we are supposed to do. Yeah. And even, I don't know, the bridal ceremony, like I said in Gikuyu, the man gives the woman what is called the hip joint, the shoulder bone, and the kidneys. The girl provides the man with grains. So there is reciprocity. And even in all those, there were men's spaces, women's spaces. The women grew grains, the men grew yams and sugarcane. there was such a clear space division of labor between men and women. Of course, when men went first to the economy, and now with structural adjustments, which destroyed the male jobs, the feminine jobs are on the rise. And then the women are being told, don't provide for your husband because husbands are supposed to provide. Why shouldn't you provide for a man you love? Why shouldn't you provide for a woman you love? So why are they going round like one Presbyterian preacher saying, no, you are not supposed to provide for a man? Don't do anything for a man. But my argument is that if I am the one who is able, why shouldn't I provide for him? If he becomes disabled, why shouldn't I provide for him? But you find that we are being convinced that there is the reciprocity, the radical love, we destroy it. I know one family, and I wouldn't like to mention their name. The wife got sick. The man has stood by the wife for over 32 years or even 35. Maybe you should go and interview him wherever he is, because he has stood by his wife all that time. But because, again, we are socialized that men, I don't know, they cannot live, I don't know what, they cannot survive, they go out. But look at the migrant men, like my father. How did they survive in the cities they lived, in the towns they lived? How did the men who went for war survive, Or the Maasai who go and herd for many days before they bring back their cattle. Those are the indigenous knowledges we need to understand about even issues of sexuality. Yeah, how do the Maasai survive when they go all that? How do the Saburu men survive when they take, when they migrate with their cattle to the grasslands?
For reminding us that, and also just mentioning the indigenous values that we can borrow from. So as we near the end of this conversation, maybe looking back on your career, what has been the most rewarding moment for you as a researcher?
I can say that this symposium, which was organized by Jokiwa Mai, she fought very hard to have it carried out, to have it implemented, is the highlight of my career. But I can tell you, when I left the job, I was not only broken, but broke. I was broken and broke. Do you know the song Umenifanya Chizi?
No, but maybe you can tell me about it.
Sauti Sol. You know the song?
Oh, Sauti Sol, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
umenifanya cheese.
Yeah.
Nifanye kama cheesy.
Yeah.
That's how I left, or I left my job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, but I'm happy that this is the most rewarding moment, because even if you left broken and broke, at least you're living the rewarding moment of your career.
Yeah, and and as I said, my family, the support networks of people like Josephat Juma, who polished my English language, Angela Kamau, all those people who did so much for me, I cannot fail to acknowledge them, because it is a Harambe work that I'm what I am. So before we dismiss each other and say, I migrated from the village and I did this and that, I was tortured. No. Even people like James Ngede, they would start by me when I went to do sensitization to encourage people. Let's not give up. Let's invest in our community. There are so many people. And if you read my book, you can see the people I have acknowledged. There are many who have walked with me, cried with me, and encouraged me to be what I am.
Yeah.
So I cannot start claiming, there is Gerard who didn't know me. And Gerard has been doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
There is Oditi. So there are so many people who have supported me. And even when people speak about tribalism, look at Juma, Nimuluya, look at Oditi, Mujalu. Look at those people who are presenting in my seminar.
Yeah.
How many are Kikuyus?
Very few.
So, as a teacher, I sit in front and teach everyone. When marking papers, they don't have names. So I don't mark for a Kikuyu, I don't mark for a Luya, I don't mark for a Kalenjin. I mark for everybody. You see, Coffee Time is a book about my family's experience with the coffee on the farm and coffee time abroad. During my PhD at Cambridge, that's when I realized that coffee time means different things to different people. When I was in Geneva, every meeting is punctured with coffee time. And these people are discussing about poverty. So I used to wonder, surely should they be discussing poverty? Shouldn't they just say farmers in the south be paid well when they are discussing about bad poverty? Does nestle children require bad support? Do those people who buy horticulture products need their girls to be supported with pads? Do those people? Yeah. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much for telling us about Coffee Time. And listeners must go and read this book so that they may understand more about it. We have another one called Bakita Today, the experience of low-income cadre health caregiver.
Yeah, Bakita
Yeah.
is a Catholic saint
Oh,
who was
okay.
from Sudan. And she was taken abroad as a slave. While there, she got converted and became a sister. Now, the migrants who go to Europe or wherever they go, they are like Bakita today. So you need to buy the book and read it.
Yeah.
And see how they do it.
Okay.
As Bakita Today.
Wow. We also have another one, Vyama Institutions of Hope. Tell us about this book.
This book, I thought about it while I was in Geneva. And I was, as I sat in that institute, I sat in an office which was constructed, I think, in 1945 or before. And I used to wonder, this office, people have sat there discussing about Africa's problems. Why don't I think of a model that Africans survive with? And that is Vyama. We have lots of Vyama. And somebody stole the idea of Susus in West Africa and came up and started selling his models based on Vyama. Whereas our Vyamas were Guatio, Matega, Guatio meaning labor pools, where people would farm on somebody's farm, and then Matega, gifting. So these concepts were urbanized and became vyama. If you go to every African community, there are vyamas there, and there is a tradition of vyama. Look at this way. How do we bury our dead? We bury them through corporate action, through collective action. How do we celebrate our graduation? Through collective action. But you find that in schools, we are forced to read in isolation. You don't include anybody. But I remember in our A levels, we were about 6 girls who called themselves as the divas, and we used to call each other the Kenny divas. I remember in my high school, we used to have we now call ourselves the Kenny divas. We used to call each other very early in the morning, and we would go and study very early in the morning, until one time our headmistress discovered us and chased us away. But today, people have to be forced to go and study. But ourselves, we were going to study. I also remember how our collective action in A level saved one of us who was being expelled because of school fees. 4 of us, instead of going to Mombasa trip, which was a privilege for people before the exam, we paid for her school fees. But then we believed that we will pass. She was part of the divas. She'll pass and come to university and pay us our money. So that was the role of collective action. Yeah, that one is about, do you imagine how people in Wakulima market operate if it is not Utu? They may destroy each other, but they don't buy each other out. They share space. They work in solidarity. They'll pool resources when necessary, and they'll do a lot of things. But that social capital is the one which somebody called it the economy of affection, which affects progress, which must be destroyed so that we can have progress.
Wow. Very important values and principles that we can borrow from that book to apply in our society today. I also have another book called Wanjiku in Global Development.
Yeah, I wanted to show the world the role Wanjiku in global development, whether in tea, in coffee, or selling sorghum in Kakamega, or trying to enter the Kimarel goat auction. So I was trying to show how Wanjiku, whether Kalenjin, I didn't do Saburu and whatever, because these things are self-financed, so there is a limit to what I can do, how she goes ahead and tries to enter the global neoliberal economy.
Wow. And finally, we have sisterhood economies, solidarity, and Utu Ubuntu for flourishing futures.
Yeah, sisterhood economies, it starts from matatu drivers, Kamukoji Juakari, and it's sort of based on the logic of Gikuyu songs by Nyakenywa, Kamweredho. You know, all those songs, I try to get the logic of being at the market, the radical courage, the radical love that they have, the self-reliance, the pooling of resources that they have. And that's what I was trying to do. That's why I called it the sisterhood economy. Yeah.
Futures.
Yeah.
Wow, that is very interesting, and I'll make sure I read this book, especially the one that tells the story of the divas. That one I must read it.
I've not written about the divas in the book.
Uh-huh.
I've not used the examples of my life.
Oh, but
I show how
yeah.
the African market survives.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go to Kamukoji,
Yeah.
how do you expect those people to live and work together?
Mm-hmm.
They have their own systems of governments, which we don't know how they elect their leaders. We don't know how they do it. So those are the things that we need to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. So as we conclude, what message would you like to leave with women across Kenya who are working hard to improve their lives, to support their families and pursue their dreams?
I don't know how to put it. They should step forward. They should step forward. It's the only thing they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
They should keep on moving and let them not be cheated that what they are doing is wrong. That they have to be cheated to trade what they own, what is precious in them, not to trade it with a foreign necklace. In Gikuyu we say, mugathe wa kuona uteaga wa mwene.
Mm-hmm.
That your own necklace gets lost when you find another necklace on the road. So what I would tell the women, not to lose their necklace while seeking another person's necklace.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I would tell them. And I may sound conservative and using Gikuyu, but I wish I could use other communities, proverbs and sayings to incorporate in my work.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would wish. Because I know they have similar sayings, they have similar proverbs, they have similar ceremonies that they would use to save them.